Welcome to The Romantic Side of Suspense with Sarah Hamaker. In each episode, she'll talk with your favorite romantic suspense authors. They will take you behind the scenes of the writing process, giving excerpts from their writing, and share stories about their writing life.
Trace of Doubt by DiAnn Mills. 15 years ago, Shelby Pierce confessed to murdering her brother-in-law and was sent to prison. Now she's out on parole and looking for a fresh start in the small town of Valleysburg, Texas. But starting over won't be easy for an ex-con. FBI Special Agent Denton McClure was a rookie fresh out of Quantico when he was first assigned the Pierce case. He's always believed Shelby embezzled $500,000 from her brother-in-law's account. So he's going undercover to befriend Shelby, track down the missing money, and finally crack this case. But as Denton gets closer to Shelby, he begins to have a trace of doubt about her guilt. Someone has Shelby in their crosshairs. It's up to Denton to stop them before they silence Shelby and the truth forever.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of The Romantic Side of Suspense. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker, and I'm so glad you joined me. Today, I'm with DiAnn Mills, a best-selling author who believes her readers should expect an adventure, and I'm sure they get it in your books. So welcome to my show, DiAnn.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I'm excited about our time together.
All right, so we were talking a little bit before we started recording about why we write romantic suspense. So I would love to hear, why romantic suspense? I mean, there's a lot of genres out there. We all know romantic suspense is very popular. Yay.
Yay.
Always good. But what attracted you to that genre for your own writing?
I would say that it's because we live in a dangerous and an unpredictable world. And there's a lot of people out there who are afraid. And when they are afraid, they often turn to fiction for an adventure, which you and I love to give. But the goal is to show the reader that, yes, we live in this dangerous and unpredictable world, but there are trained people who will do whatever it takes to keep us safe and to prevent crimes from happening. So that is my biggest reason for writing this genre, and I love it.
So, are most of your, or one of you, your hero, your heroine, or maybe both, are they in some kind of, like, you mentioned, like, there's people out there to help you, like law enforcement, helper community, firefighters, emergency. Is that who are your, like, main characters?
The last several books have been FBI.
Okay.
And they are set in Houston. I am somewhat of a OCD person when it comes to research. So when I had an idea several years ago to write an FBI book, I called the office here in Houston where I live, and I was invited down there by the media coordinator. We talked, I was cleared, and in the course of a friendship that exists today, I took their FBI Citizens Academy,
nice.
Which I'm still active in that today to keep up to date. So I also have a friend out of the FBI office in Washington, and she answers all my questions too. So this is the situation. Law enforcement, no matter who they are, federal, state, local level, they want the community support. So when other books or movies don't show how they truly do handle cases, then it gives them a wrong impression. And so they want to make sure that what is said and written about them is accurate. And I want to do that too. That way, I don't get any FBI agents emailing me saying, that's not the way it's done, honey. And anyway, I eliminate that issue.
I think that's, the internet can only take you so far.
Mm-hmm.
With that kind of research, right? I'm toying with doing a series with 911 dispatchers, because I happen to know a 911 dispatcher.
Yes.
And I'm like, that is not, that's a profession that's not written about a lot. And I mainly just was talking to her because, I have my characters calling 911. Usually happens in a book with things are happening.
Yes.
Or getting hit. And I was like, is this right? I think things are thing. And she was she was thrilled to talk about what she does. And I find what she did fascinating anyway, like you were saying, and so it was just really fun to say, oh no, what they say now, at least in this area, is not what's your emergency, but where's your emergency? Because so many people with cell phones, they can't pull up their exact location right away. And I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. So just give your books a little bit more of that authenticity that I think we want. It's so nice to talk with people and get that research accurate.
It is so amazing, Sarah. I remember once writing about an ambulance, and I thought, well, what's it like to ride in an ambulance? Yeah. So I just called and found out the wind whistles and all those kinds of things. But I have taken the ATF Citizens course, and that's amazing if you want to blow things up.
Yeah. Who doesn't, DiAnn? Who doesn't want to blow things up?
Oh, yes. And everything about these classes are amazing. You get to you get to hold the high-powered rifles and watch the different types of bombs go off. Anyway, I don't want to scare any of your readers. This grandmother here who gets excited.
All for research.
Yes. I remember riding the line with the Border Patrol in McAllen, Texas. That was amazing, getting to know their lifestyle and how they protect their families. I've interviewed Secret Service, treasure hunters, serious treasure hunters.
Wow.
I've been to Sudan. Now, that was probably my most, are you sure you should have done that kind of trip? But yes, I do believe in research. I want to bring strong, real characters to life, just like you do. I mean, these are stories that the characters become our friends, sometimes our enemies, but it is just so fun to enjoy and love and create story.
Yeah, and you find yourself rooting for them. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah, you can do this.
I know. I know my family thinks I'm a little crazy, but yeah. Although my daughters, I have 4 children, and they're all teenagers now. And my second daughter, who's a high school senior at the time of this recording, she's a writer. She loves to write too. So she's always asking me for plot point help and character development. And when they were younger, this is the fun. When they were younger, one summer they come to me and they're like, okay, we want to do a writing camp this summer with our friends. And I was like, okay. So they were friends with a family that had a bunch of sisters too. So they all came over a couple times and I got to talk about like character development and, plotting and all those fun things with, preteen writers, which was such fun. I love talking to writers. And I know that's one of your passions as well, to help writers. So, let's talk a little bit about that, DiAnn, as we finish out our time together.
Well, when I felt the calling to write, I also felt a strong calling to take anything and everything that I learned and pass it on to a serious writer. So I do mentoring. I teach at different conferences around the country, a lot of Zoom sessions. It's important to me to bring up the next generation of writers. And that means sometimes, just like you had to do with those preteens, you kind of have to grab them by the bootstraps and say, hey, take a look at this. These guidelines are here for a reason. Once you've mastered and published, then you can bend them a little bit. But I do love encouraging and teaching and challenging new writers. It is as exciting as getting that story down on paper.
It is, isn't it? That's kind of a passion of mine to really encourage writers.
Mm-hmm.
I have several friends who are writer. Oh, I have more than several friends, but so several writer friends who are a little bit stuck in their career. They've written a lot that they can't, so, I love just trying to encourage them to continue to take that next step, because I think when God calls you to write, it's usually not just for one book. I mean, occasionally maybe it's just one thing you have to get out, and you may take little times off, but I mean, I think it's pretty much a lifelong calling. And, the more we can do to help writers and encourage them to keep writing, because I think that as Christian writers, our stories are important. They impact the world, even romantic suspense. Sometimes people are like, oh, but you write for Harlequin, Love Inspired. Those are just like, fluffy books. I'm like, well, there's still truth in there. There's still the truth of God, and there's still a story that can really impact someone's life.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe as a Christian, we all have friends, neighbors, family who are not going to go with us to church. They're not going to go to a Bible study. I'm Southern Baptist, so they're not going to go to a big dinner. They may not even come to our house for fear we might start talking about Jesus or pray or something. But we can hand them a novel.
Yes.
And can say, hey, I read this book or I wrote this book, and I think you might really enjoy it. And there they see where maybe only one character solves their problems and walks through life from a Christian worldview. And it plants a seed in a non-threatening environment. And that's so important to me, so important. And I know it is to you too.
Yeah. And it's, and I will say, having grown up reading Christian books, I love the freedom we have more to not have a come to Jesus moment in every book, like there was decades ago.
Yes.
A requirement, that they don't have to be, I mean, some stories are naturally have that evangelistic tone, and that's appropriate to that story, but not every story does. Right. Sometimes I want to read about a Christian who's struggling with their faith, and or read about a Christian whose faith stays strong through difficult circumstances, and how that works out. So I love that we have the freedom, I think, in Christian fiction today to have those story arcs that are broader and more realistic, I think, for no matter where you are on your walk with Christ.
Oh, Sarah, I so agree with you. No one has ever had a seed planted by someone beating them over the head with the Bible or some type of theology. And it's who they see in us, and it's who they see in our characters. And that makes it that much more exciting, that much more of an adventure.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Well, we are almost out of time, but I did want to ask, you said that you have a passion for helping serious writers. And I wanted to know, how do you find serious writer? What's your definition?
I mentor, but I don't mentor for free. So if somebody feels called and they are very, very interested, then just like they were going to take a class at a college, they understand that I've got to put my funds out here, and that means I've got to work hard, or I've wasted. So it's not that I charge an arm and a leg, because that's not true, but I want the writer to understand that this is a business relationship, but we are going to become friends before it's over. And that is a lovely relationship to have, that someone feels as close to you as they do to a friend, but they also understand that this is serious business.
Yeah.
And my website at DiAnnMills.com has more information about that if someone would like to contact me. I don't take a lot of writers at once, simply because it's not fair to them, and I have writing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not putting that aside. No, I love that, DiAnn, because I think that when we put our money where our passion is, it can take our passion to that next level, right? What you get for free, you may or may not work on, and I'm not saying that those who offer things for free they shouldn't do that, but I think you need to be careful about, what we offer for free and what we expect people to pay. And I think you're very wise to, to take that track, because I think it's more beneficial to you and to the writers. So, but I was just curious about the serious adjective in front of writer, what that meant. So, well, we are unfortunately out of time. I could talk longer with you, DiAnn, but thank you so much for being on. I know it always flies by, being on my program today.
Oh, thank you. This has been an honor, and blessings to you and your writing and your podcast. And you're encouraging those other writers. You just go.
Thank you. You have been listening to The Romantic Side of Suspense. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker, and today I've been chatting with author DiAnn Mills. She's a best-selling author who takes her readers on an adventure. So you can find out more about her in the notes for this podcast. Also, stay tuned for an excerpt from her latest, Trace of Doubt.
Now an excerpt from Trace of Doubt by DiAnn Mills. Prologue. Shelby. Would I ever learn? I'd spent too many years looking out for someone else, and here I was doing the same thing again. Holly had disappeared after I sent her to the rear pantry for potatoes. She'd been gone long enough to plant and dig them up. I needed to get those potatoes boiling to feed hungry stomachs. I left the kitchen to find her. The hallway to the pantry needed better lighting or maybe fewer corners. In any event, uneasiness swirled around me like a dust storm. A plea to stop met my ears. I raced to the rear pantry, fearing what I'd find. 4 women circled Holly. One held her arms behind her back, and the other 3 took turns punching her small body. My stomach tightened. I'd been in her shoes, and I'd do anything to stop the women from beating her. "Please stop," Holly said through a raspy breath. For one who was 18 years old, she looked 15. "Hey, what's going on?" I forced my voice to rise above my fear of them. "Stay out of it, freak!" I'd run into this woman before, and she had a mean streak. "What's she done to you?" I eyed the woman. "None of your business unless you want the same." It's okay, Shelby. I can handle this." Holly's courageous words would only earn her another fist to her battered face, and it did. "Enough!" I drew my fists and stepped nose to nose with the leader. The 4 turned on me. I'd lived through their beatings before, and I would again. I fell, and the kicks to my ribs told me a few would be broken. A whistle blew, and prison guards stopped the gang from delivering any more blows to Holly or me. They clamped cuffs on the 4 and left Holly and me on the floor with reassurance help was on its way. I'd been her age once and forced to grow up fast. No one had counseled me but hard knocks, securing an education, and letting Jesus pave the way. I'd vowed to keep my eyes and ears open for others less fortunate. Holly's lip dripped blood, and a huge lump formed on the side of her head. I crawled to her. "Are you okay?" "Not sure. Thank you for standing up for me. I thought they would kill me. Why do they do this? I've never done a thing to them." "Because they can. They want to exert power, control. Stick by me and I'll do my best to keep you safe." Chapter 1. I tightened my grip on the black trash bag slung over my shoulder containing my personal belongings. Parole papers, a denim shoulder bag from high school, a ragged backpack, $50 gate money, my driver's license at age 16, and the clothes I'd worn to prison 15 years ago. The bus slowed to pick me up outside the prison gates, its windshield wipers keeping pace with the downpour. The rain splattered the flat ground in a steady cadence, like a drum leading a prisoner to execution. I stepped back to avoid the splash of muddy water from the front tires dipping into a pothole. Air brakes breathed in and out, a massive beast taking respite from its life labors. The door hissed open. At the top of the steps, a balding driver took my ticket, no doubt recognizing the prison's release of a former inmate. He must have been accustomed to weary souls who'd paid their debts to society. The coldness glaring from his graphite eyes told me he wagered I'd be locked up again within a year, maybe less. I couldn't blame him. The reoffend stats for female convicts like me soared high. For too many years, I imagined the day I left prison would be bathed in sunlight. I'd be enveloped in welcoming arms and hear encouraging words from my family. Reality hosted neither. I moved to the rear of the bus, past a handful of people, and found a seat by myself. All around me were those engrossed in their devices. My life had been frozen in time, and now that I had permission to thaw, the world had changed. Was I ready for the fear digging its claws into my heart? The cloudy view through the water-streaked window added to my doubts about the future. I'd memorized the prison rules, even prayed through them, and now I feared breaking one unknowingly. The last time I'd breathed free air riding the bus was a social gathering, in my case, a school bus. Kids chatted and laughter rose above the hum of tires. Now an eerie silence had descended. I hadn't been alone then. My mind drifted back to high school days when the future rested on maintaining a 4.0 average and planning the next party. Maintaining my grades took a fraction of time while my mind schemed forbidden fun. I dreamed of attending college and exploring the world on my terms. Rebellion held bold colors, like a kaleidoscope shrouded in blacklight. The more I shocked others, the more I plotted something darker. My choices often seemed a means of expressing my creativity. While in my youth, I viewed life as a cynic. By the time I was able to see a reflection of my brokenness and vowed to change, no one trusted me. All that happened before I took the blame for murdering my brother-in-law. Before I traded my high school diploma and a career in interior design for a locked cell. Before I spent years searching for answers. Before I found new meaning and purpose. How easy it would be to give in to a dismal gray future when I longed for blue skies. I had to prove the odds against me were wrong.
Thanks for listening to The Romantic Side of Suspense with Sarah Hamaker. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. You can sign up to receive notifications of upcoming podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhamakerfiction.com.